where I see artificial intelligence going. Now, we talked about AI many times recently here on the show, and I suspect that we will talk about it a lot more in the future. In the future, I can already predict I'll probably be doing an episode where I share with you the AI tools that I specifically have been using the most myself. I'm still testing and working with a lot of them right now. Some of them I'm already actively using that I would tell you about, and there are others that I am still using, vetting, have on my list to take a look at. And some of them I had to invest a little bit of time into learning how they work and do things. Some of them do some complex things that once understood and under control, they can take care of a whole lot of work on my behalf. So there's some that I'm still in that stage with. So I haven't gotten to the point that I'm ready to just announce a whole list. I actually do have some that I already have recommended to many, but that'll come in the future. But we'll be talking about AI more in the future, no matter what happens. And the simple fact is technology moves and advances rather quickly. I think all of you understand that living in the world that we live in. And once technology gets momentum, it moves even faster and faster than we have time to stop and think about how it's moving. So what happens a lot of times is people will either completely deny that it's happening, they will try to suppress it and stop it from happening, or they will they'll deny it that is happening, they'll suppress it and try to stop it from happening, or they will just kind of ignore it and just keep doing the things that they've always done or argue against it. Hey, let's just keep doing things the way we've always done it, regardless of how technology is moving. Anyone who makes any of these mistakes is going to get left behind by others in your same lane who are actually embracing this technology. So what we're going to try to do, and what I'm going to try to help you do in today's masterclass, is to stay ahead of the curve as best we can, because again, technology is going to move faster than any of us can specifically process. The good news is we can use other people. So when others have processed something, you can just pick up on what they've processed and take their word for it, rather than you having to go get all the information yourself, because there's going to be too much of it and too many different tools for you to get a full understanding of everything before you start using them. You may have to start using some things before you quite understand them all the way, because it makes sense to use them. And hopefully I'm a person who you trust, that you can take my word on how and why you should use these things. So we're going to try to stay ahead of the curve as best we can and talk about where AI is going to be in the future, because by the time you listen to this episode, the future that I'm referring to may already be here. All right. So when I say the future, don't think 20 years from now. The future might be 20 days from now. And as of this recording, just to give you an idea, I got to find out where we are today. So I'm gonna what I'm doing is I'm looking to see what episode we put out today. So the day that I'm recording this, we are on episode. Okay, so we're about, as of my recording here today, we're about, what's this? Let me do my math. My math is off here. We are about 35 episodes ahead. So I tend to record the show ahead of when it actually comes out. For those of you who don't know that, my content is for the most part evergreen. So topics that I'm talking about, doesn't really matter what date they come out specifically. So I record ahead of time. So I'm about 35 episodes ahead right now, which means if I don't record at all for the next 35 days, the show will keep coming out and you wouldn't know that I wasn't recording at all. But I like to stay ahead of the curve. So anyway, the future that I'm referring to on the date that I'm recording this, by the time you hear this 30 or so days from now, that future may already be here. Okay, so don't think the future means later. It means like today. All right, point number one. Topic once again here today is where I see artificial intelligence going. And I'm speaking in broad general terms. I'm not saying, hey, get on this app right now. I mean, what AI is going to be able to do in the future that it may already be doing on some basic levels, but it's going to be doing it on a really high level moving forward. Number one, AI activity companions. AI activity companions. What does that mean? For example, let's say you go to, for example, this morning I went to the boxing gym. And in the boxing gym, if there's nobody there to spar and box with me, then I spend time doing shadow boxing, working on the timing bag, or some people call it the double-sided bag, speed bag, and the heavy bag. So those are bags that you ever see a boxer in the gym punching something, that's one of those forms of the bags. So I see in the future that someone's going to create, I have this idea, but maybe somebody else already has the idea. Maybe they're already working on it. Maybe they already did it. I just don't know about it. A companion in the boxing gym, for example, to where instead of me needing another human like you to come to the gym, we can practice boxing against each other, that I could practice boxing against a boxing robot. And I can just set the settings for the robot. Hey, I want the robot to fight defensively. I want the robot to fight more aggressively. I want the robot to kind of hang back and use its reach and keep the distance. Or I want a robot that's going to be really aggressive and just crowd me in and fight on the inside. I want a robot that's going to be a really hard puncher, or a robot who's a jabber, or a robot who throws a lot of left hooks. And I can just program what I want the robot to do so I can practice my boxing skill against it. And it can be a level 1 up to a level 25, depending on my level. And I can practice against the robot, and I don't even need another human to come to the gym. I see that coming. I see that coming in the future, that people, I believe there are people already working on this stuff, that once they figure out how to do it in one area, they can just take the same framework and apply it in another area. I don't know if you saw that video. There was a video that I saw a couple weeks ago where someone had created an AI powered bartender. It was a robot, but it was powered by artificial intelligence. You go up to the robot, tell it what you wanted, and it could, I don't know, actually, let me back up. I don't know if you could tell the robot anything, but the robot would pour your drink, it could, and it serve it to you and all of that stuff. And there were some people commenting, and they were saying, well, one of the reasons people go to bars, they were saying it in sarcastic ways, but one of the reasons people go to bars is because they actually build a relationship with certain bartenders, which goes back to what I talked about in the previous series here, where I was talking about your future-proof skills. This is why human connection and human skills will always matter, because there are people out there like me who, if you have a robot as the bartender, I'm completely okay with that, because I'm not a normal attendee at a bar. So I don't care if there's a human bartender, just get me my damn drink. And there are other people, though, who go to the bar consistently, and they see the relationship they have with a bartender as a important thing to them. So they don't want the robot. They want to talk to an actual human. So there's something for everybody out here. And again, they already have this when it comes to a bartender. I don't think the bartender is fully functional yet, but if they can do it with a bartender, guess what? They can do it with boxing. They can do it with something like running. Let's say you like to run outside. I run outside all the time. Maybe you want to have somebody running with you, but you can't find a consistent person who will come up and wake up in the morning or go out in the afternoon or in the evening and run consistently with you. And maybe you want a running partner who will maintain the pace. So let's say you want to run at an 8-minute pace for 5 miles. You can program the robot to run this particular route at an 8-minute pace for exactly 5 miles. And the robot is going to run at that exact pace. All you have to do is keep up with the robot, and you'll be running at that exact pace yourself. Wouldn't that be interesting if the robot could actually do that? Folks, I'm telling you, this is going to happen in our lifetimes. This will be a thing that you will see a person outside running with a robot keeping the pace next to them, or maybe even picking up their pace, sprinting against them, and just being a partner for them. Maybe even basketball. I can see this happening, that if I was still playing basketball, I would have thought of this one too. I'm thinking of it as I'm talking here. But in basketball, let's say you could have a robot play defense against you while you work on your ball handling moves, or a robot play offense while you work on your defense. Like, wouldn't that be interesting if you could do that? Basketball coaches who are listening to this, what if you could have a 7-foot robot who could be the defender defending the basket area while your team practices making shots over and around that 7-footer, so that in the game you're playing in 3 days against a team who actually has a 7-foot player, your team is already prepared for dealing with someone that size and with those abilities. These things are all coming. These things are all coming in the future. And again, it can be programmed for different levels of skill and different communication styles if it needs to communicate. And again, I was thinking about this when I was in the boxing gym one day, probably about a month ago. I was hitting the punching bag and just thinking, why doesn't someone, I'm not going to do it, it's not my area, but why doesn't someone just create a boxing robot that, again, I can just program it. I want this robot to box like Mike Tyson. I want this robot to box like Floyd Mayweather. I had this robot box like Canelo Alvarez. And then I practice boxing against that robot, and I could control how hard it hits me, how aggressive it is, et cetera, et cetera. These are all happening, ladies and gentlemen. And you can do all your sparring against the robot, or you're running with that bot just in case no humans show up for you to practice against. I see this happening in all different areas of life. I even heard that people are working on creating an AI sex bot that could basically replace actual human bed partners, that you just have sex with the AI bot instead of actually having to talk to a human being. And there are already apps out there that can do things such as be your personal coach. People can be your apps that can be your accountability partners, etc. It's only a matter of time before these apps can do actual human activities in the physical form, not just with words. Right now, apps are pretty good at doing things with words. So there are apps out there that can be like a motivational pick-me-up, or it can be like a therapist to you. All you do is type in the app how you're feeling, and the app will respond to you and have a whole ongoing back and forth textual conversation with you, but it's just an app in your phone. What I'm talking about here is physical companions that can actually physically do things with and to you in real life. And these would be actual robots that do things. I was talking to a guy, he's my neighbor down here in Miami about a week or two ago. And we were talking about, because he's in the real estate business. And I was telling him, because he doesn't know, he's not really up on the tech stuff, but he is up on the business stuff. And I was explaining to him that it's coming, that there will be robots out there, because where we live here in Miami, there's a lot of construction going on. There's a lot of, this neighborhood that we're in is basically being built from the ground up. Well, it's in the midst of it. It's already built, but it's more is being added. And I was explaining to him that you see all these construction sites and you see all the construction workers going and doing construction work. There will come a time in the next, I would say, 20 to 25 years where a lot of construction workers will not be needed. There'll still be some, but there won't be nearly as many, because a lot of them will have their jobs replaced by robots, where a robot will be able to build a 65-story skyscraper. The robot and the computers and everything will be programmed to where the computers build the building instead of the humans building the building. Now, this guy, isn't doing that type of real estate, like commercial 60-story real estate, but he is in real estate, period. So let's say he wanted to build a house, or he buys a house, he wants to tear it down and rebuild it. He can have robots programmed to do that rather than having to hire contractors to go do it. Or any of you hire a contractor to uh, build a deck on your house, or a contractor to redo your kitchen. And I've heard many, and damn, I'm thinking of some, now that I'm talking about it, I can think of off the top of my head, three, just off the top of my head, of people who have hired contractors. My parents talked about this once. They hired a contractor who happened to be a friend of my dad's to do some work on a house. And y'all already know how that goes. I don't have to tell you the rest of that story for you to know how that one turned out. Hiring a friend to do some business work for you, and they ended up not doing a very good job. This contractor, I remember that. My parents told me that story. My dad kind of being apologetic about the guy, my mom not liking the guy at all, and him taking forever to get the job done. Then I have a friend out in California. She's telling me about a house that she owns and the work that she did on it, and her telling me that she spent more money fixing shit in the house than she spent on the house itself after she bought the house from, guess who? A friend, or an ex-friend, not a friend anymore, as she bought the house from a friend who didn't tell her all the shit that she was going to have to spend on getting the house fixed. So that's another one. Then there's a person who I follow online, and this guy's been talking about this house that he built. He built the house kind of from the ground up, and he's on his like third or fourth contractor trying to get this house fixed. So I've heard a lot of horror stories about people hiring contractors for house renovations and house builds and rebuilds, etc. And anyway, I thought of those things while I'm thinking about this conversation I was having with my neighbor a couple of weeks ago, that in the future, you'll be able to have a robot as your contractor, and they don't make the same mistakes that humans make. They're not lazy like humans. They don't lie like human beings. You know exactly what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, unlike human beings. And this is something that there are some technology geeks. I'm a technology geek in a way, but I'm a light technology geek. There are deep technology geeks who are really working on this stuff right now, really trying to make these things happen in real life. And I say in the next 20 years, 25 years, this will be a thing, that you won't have to hire a construction worker or a contractor to redo your kitchen. All you do is go on a computer and you basically program in what you want it to look like. It's just like you would on some graphic design website, and interactive graphic design website, and then you push a button and a computer, not a computer, but a robot, or robots plural, come to your house. They'll tear the whole kitchen apart and they will rebuild the whole kitchen a lot more efficiently and more effectively, hopefully, than a bunch of human beings would. All right, is this coming? Yes, it is. All right, this is coming. All right, anyway, let's move on to point number two, which, as you can see, I talk about this stuff a lot. Today's topic, once again, is where I see artificial intelligence going. Number two, AI life convenience. If you think that the dating world is difficult now, imagine when you, whether you are a male or a female, can be replaced by a robot that does exactly what a guy or girl wants, minus all the human complications of being human. Now, there are some humans who will not want this because, as we talked about in the Future Proof Skills series, that there are always going to be humans who would rather deal with a human because they want the human touch and the human connection that comes with it. At the same time, I believe there are humans out there who will be completely okay with getting certain things handled and done by a robot and not have to deal with a human at all. All right, there are people out there who are this way and they will buy. As I told you earlier in the first point, that I saw a bartender literally working the bar and it was a robot. Now, again, some people want the human experience. Some people are okay because they don't need to become friends with the robot. They don't need a relationship with the robot. They don't need to text the robot and say, hey, are you working the bar tonight? Because I might come through. All right, some people don't care about that. I just want the drink. All right, some people just want the drink as quickly as possible. They don't care. So think of things like a housemate who does your laundry. So if you remember the TV show way back in the days, the cartoon called The Jetsons, you probably had to be over 35, maybe 30 to remember The Jetsons. The Jetsons was this cartoon. The main character in the show was a guy named George Jetson, and he had Jane, his wife, his boy Elroy, the daughter Judy, and they had a dog named Astro, and they had a housemaid. I don't remember what her name was, but the housemaid in the Jetsons was literally a robot. And the whole show, the Jetsons, was all about the space-aged future that we would all live in. And who knows when the Jetsons came out? The Jetsons show probably came out. I'm going to try to look it up while we're talking here. I believe the Jetsons show probably came out sometime in I would guess the 50s or the 60s. Let's see if I can find it on Wikipedia. So the Jetsons originally came out in 1962. That's when the show originally aired. It aired, let's see, aired in prime time on September 23rd, 1962. New episodes produced again and from 1985 up to 1987. That's it. That's all the Jetsons had. Seems like the show was out for a lot longer than that. It only has 75 total episodes. That's interesting. I thought the Jetsons had a lot more episodes than that. Only 75 episodes in the history of the Jetsons. That's interesting. And it stopped airing. They stopped creating new episodes in 1987. But the Jetsons lived in this place. I'm looking on Wikipedia now. This place called Orbit City. And it was basically they were living up in the sky. And they lived in these pods up in the sky. And when they got in their cars, the cars just flew through the sky from one pod to the next. And they had, let's see if I can find the name of so George Jetson, Jane, Elroy, Judy, Astro was the dog, and I believe Rosie was the name of the robot. So I'm looking through Wikipedia here. So Rosie was the robot, and Rosie did all the housework. But Rosie, the way this robot was, it was very humanized. So Rosie had actual feelings, and they would talk to Rosie like an actual human. But we're talking about a robot that you don't have to talk to a human because it's not human. And this is coming. So imagine you had a robot in your house that did all the laundry and folded the laundry and put it away in your closets. What if you had a robot that would take all the dirty dishes, pre-rinse them, put them in the dishwasher, run the dishwasher, empty the dishwasher, put the dishes away in the cabinets? What if you had a robot that could make dinner for you, which will eliminate the need for a personal chef? Maybe a robot that can go to Whole Foods and get the groceries that you need from the grocery store so that you don't have to get the ingredients for the meals that you make. These things are all coming. Now, this one may take a little bit longer, but I think if they can build a house, then they can make dinner. All right, making dinner is actually easier than building a house. So some want the human experience, but some don't. Okay, emptying the dishwasher, sweeping the floor, mopping the floors. Who knows? What if you had a robot to take the dog for a walk? Now, I think many of you have a dog. You want to take your dog for a walk because that's part of the human experience. But you get my point here. All right, these are all coming, and I think when I say 25 years, I'm being very conservative. I think there are people who are working on this and they're trying to get it out to you at the retail level to where you can buy these things and use them by the year 2030. And that's 5 years. All right, so don't think this is some futuristic, again, George Jetson thing that is never going to happen. This is going to happen. All right, point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is where I see artificial intelligence going. People who master using, programming, and systematizing artificial intelligence will be selling these things to the people who have not mastered using them, programming them, and systematizing them. Let me repeat what I just said. This is the part that I really want you to catch. Here's the opportunity for you. You don't have to be the one who creates these things. I'm not going to be the one who creates them. You don't even have to be the customer who buys them. But if you can master using them, programming them, and systematizing them, because this is all coding language. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a business colleague. She's more into tech than I am. She's more plugged into the tech world than I am. She's more of a tech geek. But she explained to me, because she was showing me some AI software that I'm working on right now, that once I learn how to use this, if it can do what it looks like it can do, it's going to change the way that I operate my business. It's going to change the way that I operate a lot of pieces of my business, especially things that are done on the internet. And when she was showing it to me, and once I got to look at it, I came to understand. She said, Dre, this is just programming language. And because you think in a very logical way, all of this is just if then loop. This is just an if then loop. So any of you who doesn't know what an if then loop is, I'm not going to explain it to you here. For those of you who do know what it is, you understand this. She said, Dre, you're a type person who thinks in if then loops already naturally. Once you figure out how to speak in its language, you could actually use this and use it for your work. And she's 100% correct. The point being, I'm saying all that to say, if you can master using this, you can master the programming of it, and you can master the systematizing of it. Using it means just using it. Programming it means, can you teach it to do what you want it to do? And systematizing it is, can you get multiple different programs to interact with each other to get complex tasks completed? The people who do that, you're going to have a business opportunity because you can sell that to people who have not done the work, the people who don't think in this way, and the people who don't want to do the work because they got other stuff to do. That's where the opportunity is going to be when it comes to artificial intelligence. And I'm telling you, listen very closely, this opportunity is something you can be working on today. Right now, you can be working on this right now, today. Because right now, there are people out there who are selling services to people like me and you based on the fact that we don't want to take the time to go research, find out about, learn how to use, program, and operate software that is utilizing artificial intelligence. That's a business opportunity in and of itself. So if you go learn how to use some software and you know how to use it, and it can shorten the time needed to get certain work done, you can go to people who don't know about the software or don't, maybe they know about it, but they don't want to learn how to use it. They don't want the hassle. They just want to save time. They will pay you to do it for them. And again, the more complex this gets, the more valuable the skill. Everybody understand? This is the opportunity that I'm telling you, you have right now today. You can start working on this literally right now. Okay? The next opportunity wave in humanity that everyone has access to is the ability to utilize artificial intelligence as a business tool. If you know how to program the robot that can build a house, you can sell that robot to people who want to build a house. You don't even have to build houses. You just know how to program the robot. Your home cleaning service doesn't have to be you going into a house and mopping their floors. Your home cleaning service can be you sending your robot to the house and the robot mops the floor while you're out getting new clients that the robot's going to go to next. And guess what? The robot can work all day without a break, unlike your staff who needs cigarette breaks and healthcare, and they want to go to lunch and they got to take their kid to school. All right, they don't have the same. Robots don't have the same problem that your humans do. Okay, so you can send a human to go do this stuff. In other words, the next great opportunity for everybody listening to my voice right now, and you all have access to this, is the ability to learn and use AI as an offensive weapon to help your life and your business rather than you playing defense against AI as it encroaches on your life and your business. I would suggest that you embrace it because this is not stopping. As a matter of fact, if you look around, it's already happening. How many of you have called a customer service line and you were in some voice interactive system where you had to say certain stuff to get to a certain department and get a certain person on the phone? That is artificial intelligence. It's a rudimentary artificial intelligence, but it is artificial intelligence. How many of you have interacted with a chat bot on some website? You go to a website, the chat bot automatically pops up. How can I help you today? And you start talking to it, and based on your answers, it gives different responses. That is artificial intelligence. It's already happening. It's about to get more serious, and it's going to get more serious to the point that you'll be engaging with artificial intelligence and you don't even know that you're engaging with artificial intelligence. That's where it's going. I would suggest you get on the knowing side of this rather than the not knowing side. That's what I'm suggesting to you. Okay, so it's not a matter of whether or not this is happening, it's just a matter of whether or not you're going to use it or it's going to use you. One or the other. You get to choose. And if you don't choose, a choice will be made for you. That said, let's recap. Today's class is where I see artificial intelligence going. And by the way, no matter what industry you happen to be in, you can utilize artificial intelligence in your industry. So everything I'm saying to you here today does not mean you need to drop your current career and drop your job and go start a career in artificial intelligence. You can integrate artificial intelligence into your current career. That's what you actually need to do. So let me make sure everybody understands that. Keep doing what you're doing. Just figure out how to use AI in it. Then once you figure out how to use AI in it and you become more efficient and effective, now go to everybody else in your industry and sell them the thing that you've already figured out because they don't want to figure it out. So where I see artificial intelligence going, we talked about AI many times here in the past on the show. three specific areas. Number one, AI activity companions, AI that can do things with you in a physical form. So not just the textual conversations in some app. I'm talking about a physical thing that can actually do things, like a bartender, like a running partner, like a person to spot you when you're lifting weights in the gym, for example. Number two, AI life convenience. So what if there's an AI bot that can come clean your house? So you can just buy one and it just cleans your house every day. You own it. Or it will scrub the toilets, or it will go get groceries for you, or it will clean up dog poop when you're walking the dog, or what's another thing it can do? It can wash the dishes and unload the dishwasher. That is coming. And there are people working on this stuff right now. Number three, people who master using this stuff, programming it and systematizing it. In other words, making it integrate with other pieces and all working together and communicating with each other. That's going to be the next great business opportunity. The next great business opportunity are people who master using AI in certain industries and in certain ways. And then you go to people who have not done the work to master it, and you can sell them what you have already figured out. That is the next business. No matter what industry you're in, this will apply. Good news is you can figure this out while maintaining the knowledge that you have in your own industry, so it's still valuable. But at the same time, or not even and adding on top of that, your understanding of AI to how to make that business and that work even more integrated and more simple and more efficient. That's the opportunity. You need to get on this ASAP. All that said, folks, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to learn how to start using this stuff, how to start integrating it, how to make it work in your business, and of course, how to sell it. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Have me as your direct coach, and let's get to work. Work on your game. Dre, all